login scripts are what allows us to get drive mappings and allows us to be able to make it a little bit easier for people to access different things. If I'm taking a look at just my normal system, if I click on my file management, and it starts out these drives, like I have a K drive and an M drive, and those are mapped out to a location. And they're set for me so that I can go to those locations easily and quickly. Right now, as I'm logging into these Novell, on the Novell here, I'm logging in, but I'm keeping having to navigate under network, and then under the server, and then under the volume, and that's kind of gets a little cumbersome and not the easiest to use. So we were looking at login scripts. Now login scripts can do lots and lots of other things. The main thing that we use it for is for drive mappings. Login scripts use a basic format. I'll just bring up like Notepad or something here. Start typing some things in. Map commands are pretty straightforward command. It starts with the word map, and then we get a drive letter. Let me get the font a little bit bigger here so you can see it. Map a drive letter colon. So it's like C colon, D colon, E colon, whatever. So map drive, and then it equals something. And the easiest way to do that is list your server's name, backslash the volume name, and then a colon, and then the path that you want to go to. So that's the general syntax for the map command. Now there's some variations off of this. Now if I map this right now, I'd be mapping out to that path, but I'd still be able to navigate up and down that directory. I'm not even going to take the time to show that process. I'm just going to be making it look like the root of it. So like when you have an H drive for your home directory, it's going to make it look like that is your root. Yeah, there's a question about backslashes. Is backslash server slash volume? There's two different ways of naming these things, and you can use the UNC, which would be using the wrong screen. Backslash server slash volume slash path. With the login scripts that we're using, we're going to be using the other method, which is server slash volume. Okay. What we're going to be adding to this command is adding the root command to this. By making the root, it's just like I talked about. So instead of H being pointed to, my data drive, a home folder for Bob, and if I clicked on H, it'd actually show up on there. It'd be H colon backslash data backslash home backslash Bob. It gets really confusing for the user. Like, where am I there? And then you start navigating up, and then you don't have rights to those folders, and so you can't really see them. It gets really, really confusing. If I want a drive letter to go to a location, I want to make it look like the root. So I get in the habit of doing everything map root. Now, let me give you an example of how this would look. Just like our shared directory. So everybody's going to have a shared directory for our whole organization. So it's going to be map root, and you can find a drive letter. S is a pretty good drive letter for shared. S for shared makes it easy to remember. H for home, S for shared, whatever. Equals, and now my server name is Benfield Serve. If you're not sure your server name, switch over to your server. It is the prompt of your server. So Benfield _ serve, the prompt of your server is your server name. And the backslash. Now what volume is the shared directory located on? It's located on the data volume. So Benfield _ serve backslash data, and then the path that I want it to go to. And it's going to be shared. It's the shared directory. So that's one drive mapping that I might want to use. For the various departments, I might want to include another drive mapping, and this one I'm just arbitrarily choosing as G. G for, I don't know, go to, great, my group, I don't know. And again, let's just say this is for accounting. Map root G colon equals Benfield serve backslash. That's also in the data volume. And now to know what my path is. And it should be account. Or if it's accounting, you type out accounting, whatever the path is going to be. So knowing the names. If you're using inconsistent names between your organizational unit and your file system and here, it's really good to I know what it is. You can always look back. Look under Account Services and, Remote Manager. I look under Volumes, I look under Data, and sure enough, my directory name is called Account, so that's good. They're not case sensitive. In fact, there's nothing that's case sensitive in Novell except one thing, and there's one specific thing related to login scripts, which we'll talk about. Now, this is department specific, and this relates to everybody. And so how we implement that, we can do it differently, in many different ways. A couple other things I want to talk about for mappings is you actually have a default login script. So right now, when these people logged in fact, I'll log in as somebody. I'll call it login as Lauren. Now I better log in as somebody else. Login, so that will log somebody out and then log somebody else in. Andrew's in accounting. On my login screen, there's a scripts button here. And first of all, let's go run the scripts. You want to run login scripts. That's a good thing. And then display the results in a window, which is a good thing. But then close automatically. Those things close right away, so you don't even see what's happening. And so I want to see what's happening. So I don't want to close that window automatically, so I'm going to uncheck this. So I'm going to log in as Andrew. And this is what it just did. This is the login script. It tells me who I'm logged in as. It gives me my local drives. And then it mapped a drive letter here. Mapped a drive letter E out to a certain location. So if I look out here right now, under my computer, you can see that you actually have an E drive. Where did that come from? Well, that came from that default login script. Now, this is going to the public folder out on their server, so I can only see the login and NDPS directories because that's the only thing that I have rights to as a normal user. So that's, not my public, my sys volume. So it gives me access or lets me see those things out there just by default. Now, I don't necessarily like the default login script, and there really isn't a way of getting, you can't change it. You can't go in under settings somewhere and saying, change my default login script to equal this. So instead what we do is we write a command that says not to use the default login script. And it is literally no underscore default. So no default. So when you run the no default command, it's not going to run the default login script. Then after that, it's only going to run the things that I wanted to do. In this case, I wanted to map the root, map root S to be my shared folder. What's another folder that I might want to map to? The home directory. So if I'm working with Andrew, I could do a map root H colon equals, and then do the whole path. But this is on the home volume, and then I'd have to map it to Andrew B if I was using Andrews, for example. And then I'd have one for Lauren, and one for Megan, and one for Sally, and one for, that sounds really hard. Yes? Question? A variable. There is a variable. Remember when we went under the users and we created people? This is why this was very important. Here's an environment called home directory. And boy, this one's pointing to home, Benfield server, home volume, Brandon, and I click over here to Samantha, and this one points to Samantha's home folder. Boy, it'd be really nice to be able to use it as a variable. By the way, pretty much everything in here that's a field is a variable that you can use. First name, last name, home directory, what group you belong to, all kinds of different things. We don't have the time to get into all those kinds of things. We're going to be using just one of them, and that's the home directory. Variables is where it becomes case sensitive. Case sensitive is the only thing in Novell anywhere is variables. Variables always start with a %, and they're always all uppercase, and they're always one word. So home directory would be %home_directory. So I could do it the other way and make it for every individual user, or I could create this once and have it applied to everybody. Any preferences there? I'm doing it this way. You can choose it either way that you want to do it. So in essence, this login script right here applies to everybody, and then I have different departmental login scripts for each department individually. I'm going to try to show you how this is implemented. It's done at the container level, and just like intruder detection, it does not flow down automatically, unfortunately. So we need to have a login script in every container, just like we need to set up intruder detection in every container. But there's a way that we can use login scripts to sort of trick it or use it to our advantage to make it look and act like it's going to flow down and continue on into the subdirectories underneath there. Let's just start at the top. This is a really good, basic login script. So I'm going to keep this one. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go into iManager, and I'm going to go to the Garopa container, because this is going to apply to everybody in all of Garopa. So I click on the current level. I click on the box next to there, so I'm selecting the current level. I'm going to edit. I'm going to edit that object. And all your little options across here, you have a login script. And it's thinking, and then we have a login script. I already copied it, so I can just paste it. And so there's my login script. Yes?
What's the path again? You copy it into iManager?
Let's do it again. I'll just cancel here. So what I do is I go to iManager. I want this to apply to everybody, so I'm using the Garopa container. It has to be in every container anyway. So I click on Garopa, and then I click on the checkbox next to current level. So I'm in the Garopa container, and I want to check the current level. And then I click Edit. And then I go to the login script. Once in the login script field, I right-click and I paste it, or you can type it all out in your notes, however you want to do it. And that's really all you need to do for that container. Now, I think, let me just check Andrew. Little side. Oh no, his password shouldn't expire. So I'm going to work with Andrew right now. So if I log in as Andrew, will the login script run? No, because Andrew is in the accounting container. And if I look at the accounting container, it doesn't have a login script specified. If there's no login script specified in the container where the person is logging in from, it runs the default login script only. Now, what could I do here? I could, in fact, paste this in here as well and do this whole no default, and that's going to run this one, do a map S, map H for your home directory, and then if I wanted to, I could add the department one. I'll just copy this one and paste it there. I certainly could do this. In fact, I will do this the first time, so just to show how this works. I'm going to apply this and then click OK. So now accounting has a login script. Let's run Andrew's login script. The interface is busy. What's it busy with? let's just detach. Okay. I'll save this to my desktop. Oh, I know why. Because I still have the login screen, login results screen up here. Let's close that. Have to be careful. Let's log back in as Andrew. And I want to make sure that the login script, yeah, it's going to stay open. And I click OK. And if I type these right, and if all the rights are there, it's a little pokey. There we go. Here are my drive mappings I just created. So drive S is going to shared. Drive H is going to Andrew B, even though I didn't specify Andrew B, it's using the variable. And drive G is going to the accounting directory, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Now if I go to, my file, my Windows Explorer, let me move this over a little bit. These are longer paths. I have a G drive, H drive, and S drive. I click on H, and even though it shows the whole path, I can't navigate up. I can't go up to the home level or to the root level. Or this is my root. This is Andrew's root. Even if I click on the G drive, this is the accounting subfolder. So this is actually accounting on the data volume, but all I see is accounts payable and accounts receivable. If I go to the shared drive, I can only see the shared documents there that I'm working with. So you can see those drive letters right there. What's nice about this is it's a little bit easier to access things. So say that I am in Notepad and I want to save something. I can do a file, save as, and where I'm going to look for is, I can go to my H drive. I can even type in H if I want, and I can save this login. I just clicked on something else, sorry. Login script file there. And now it's saved out to my H drive. There's my login script. I'll copy it to my desktop, so another copy though. So my login script is working. Now what I'd have to do though, just like I did intruder detection, I have to go to every container and copy and paste that and change that for all of them. What would happen if all of a sudden, I don't want S for the shared directory. I wanted to make a T. I don't know, for whatever reason. Or if I wanted to add another one, maybe instead of S, I want a T drive being mapped to a temp directory or something. What would I have to do for all those containers? I'd have to go in and edit all of them. I'd have to go to every single container and edit all of those. You can point it to a file, but you can point it to a container. And that's what we're going to do now. So I can point to another login script. So one login script can point to another login script. So I can't point to a specific file, but I can point to another login script. So let's take a look at accounting now again. So instead of me having no default, map S, match H, why type all that? That's already written somewhere. Where's it written? In the Garopa object. Correct. Correct. So I'm going to include the login script from Garopa. And then, in addition to that, I'm going to map my own for my own department. So I'm going to include Garopa's login script, and then I'm going to map my one for accounting. Now the naming is really important. Dots get a little tricky here. We didn't talk much about that this semester. Apologize for that. But the naming for objects are dot object, dot object, dot object, dot organization. So I'm sorry, dot organizational unit, dot organizational unit, dot organization. So I'm going to include Garopa's login script. And then I'm going to run my own additional one because Garopa doesn't include the one for accounting. That wouldn't make sense because not everybody has access to accounting. So I click OK. Now let's log in as Andrew again. Let's just try it again. And I still have this screen. And I look, and sure enough, it does all three drive mappings, even though I just had that include statement. Okay, now let's take a look at accounts payable. If I logged as Jessica right now, what is the login script for accounts payable? Nothing. Okay, so that means that Jessica is going to get the default login script. Is that the login script we want to have her have? Not at all. This is where we can sort of, every container, we can make it look and act like it's going to be coming from the container above it. And anything we change to it, all we have to do is include the container above it, and that's going to give us everything we need. What's nice about this, so if I do include .account.garopa, I'm including what this does is go out, take a look at, and run this login script, which in turn goes out and runs the Garopa login script, and you have everything that you want. Doing it this way by having underneath, like under accounts payable and accounts receivable, including accounting, now we can do special things in our accounting. Say accounting does have something special just for accounting that I want to, map a J drive to, a junk folder or something. That only applies to accounting. If I put it in the accounting login script, it's going to apply to all the subcontainers because they're including this login script. So let's go and see how that works out. So I included .garopa, map root G. I click OK. Under accounts payable, the current directory, current container, the login script is include accounting. So let's log in as Daniel and see how that works out. Let me make sure that I don't have a restriction on Daniel. Good, I don't. So let's log in as Daniel. He's accounts payable. And there my login script. S is going to shared, H is going to Daniel B, G is going to accounting. So now that I'm Daniel, I click on my S drive. I have access to the folders in the shared directory I should. My home drive does in fact go to Daniel. I don't have a login script here anymore, even though it's the same H drive. If I look on G, I'll have access to accounts payable, and this is accounting. Again, though, it does have to be included in every single container. So it gets a little tedious, but it's one of those things that you set up once. I mean, how many times you change a login script? Not many. And once you do the includes, you only have to include them in one location. So if I go under accounting, I would in fact need to do accounts receivable now. Really easy, though. It's just include accounting. And I'm going to copy this, in fact. I'm going to copy it from accounts receivables because I have to do it under Arthur Anderson now as well because it has to be in every single container. The login script, accounting. And now all of accounting is done. I think information systems, this doesn't have anything deep underneath it, but pretty simple. If I want to work with the login script for information systems, I click on the current level and I edit it. The login script is going to be including Garopa, .garopa, and then doing other mapping. Map root. Oh, in fact, let me copy it. Why should I retype all that in when I can just paste it in there? And the only thing that gets changed is the root of your G drive. Click OK. Let's log in somebody from IS. There's Lauren. Lauren B. That's too many letters. LTC, LTC. Change the context to IS. Click OK and log in. I have 2 Grace logins left. No, I don't want to change it. Now I can see that my S drive is still going to shared, H is going to Lauren, which it should, and G is going to my IS folder. So how long did that take to add that to the IS folder? It's 2 lines. Include Gropa, map to that directory. Now I'm logged in as Lauren. I have my IS folder. I am in good standing. I don't see the manager folder. I have my own home folder, my own little private area, and then all the shared documents. I don't see the financial statements, or I don't see anything else that I shouldn't see. And that is how you implement login scripts. Do you need another example? Are you good? Good. Excellent. That is something that you have to implement, again, for all the containers. So if there's a container, under accounting, all 3 of those, executives have anything, HR doesn't, IS doesn't. Operations and sales do. Operations, you'd have to include login scripts for operations, first, second, and third, sales, and east and west. The only way to make sure that you have this working right is to log in as a person. You're going to say, oh, I just copy and paste it, it's fine from the other one. You got to log in from every container to make sure that that container's login script is working properly. That's the only way you can double check to make sure that's working. The 2 huge problems, potential problems. When you get an error in the login script, it's usually because of one of 2 things. One thing is you're mapping to a location that doesn't exist. So either you're mapping to the accounting folder when the folder is called account. So you can't map to an accounting folder because accounting doesn't exist. Also, it's very common to think that you created like an AP or an AR folder, and then you're mapping to it, and then it doesn't. Well, it doesn't exist because we're not actually mapping to those AP and AR. But you think you created the whole structure, and all of a sudden the folder just doesn't exist. You didn't create it, or you called it something different. The other very, very common issue is you're trying to give rights to you're trying to map a drive letter to a folder that the person doesn't have rights to. The most common one is the shared folder. Just because you create a shared folder doesn't mean anyone has access to it. So in this case, I'm looking at shared, and all of Gropa does, so we were pretty good with that. It's very common to forget this, so if I delete Gropa under here, and now I try to log in, and I log back in as Lauren, now why did that work? It certainly should have worked. Let's take a look at this again. Shared. What does she have rights to? What's under shared? Now, if Lauren has access to any folders underneath there, she shouldn't have access to this. Company recipes, maybe? No, no trustees there. Oh, HR policies. Because Gropa has access to a subfolder, you'll have read access to the folder above it. So you do have rights to that. And I don't want to completely mess it up. But, or another common one is people forgetting to put home directory access rights. They don't give people access to their own home directory. And that's done under the templates. Under the templates, new file system rights, including all rights, not including any rights. So the folder exists, but they don't have rights to it. So let me go ahead and fix data. I forgot that we had created those subdirectories underneath there. Oh, I'm the wrong, no. How did I get there? Let's see. Okay, data shared. It's where I want to be. And I want Gropa to be back on here with all rights. And that is about it. Any questions on login scripts?